I'll admit, I'm Mr. X. That was a interesting. I think he's my favorite villain of the show. How is everyone doing today, guys? My name's T Codes, and I guess the best way to start this off is by talking about the little bit of an echo in here. I don't really know why. I mean, it's not a big room. I mean, it's a solid sized room that I'm in right now. So this is the other study room that is at my dorm here. So just wanted to change things up a bit for the background, mainly because one, not a long day. Two, roommate, my roommate went to sleep, so again, don't wanna wake him up with anything. So I figured just go to the study room here and just get this out of the way. Because yeah, it's been a long day, but all right, yeah, okay. Amphibia episode 46A, Mr. X. Yeah, this is a fun episode because the first line from this dude, it is both hilarious but really just what? Because it's such forced exposition in a way, because I mean, you open up the first line with, "Do you know why they call me Mr. X, Jenny?" And this is clearly someone who, these two, I imagine they have worked together multiple times. So just the fact that just in this random moment of time, he just is sitting there with Jenny and he just decides to spew out this piece of information, which for the viewer is a nice little like, well, yeah, why do they call him Mr. X? And the reason why they call him Mr. X is because he studies extraterrestrial stuff. So X, nice little ha ha ha. But I really imagine part of the reason why is because, I mean, come on, Mr. X is like, anyone who has played any of the Resident Evil games has to know Mr. X, and so that's exactly the first thing that came to my mind. And I wasn't entirely sure what to make of Mr. X going into this. I'm like, yeah, because that's the thing with these villains that the show has been really able to do, is they give them a lot of layers, even if they don't have the deepest backgrounds or like the big or stories that have been told yet, like Andreas and Grime. You know, they, even though we don't know a lot about both of them, they have personalities that really make us enjoy them, even though Grime at a point was the bad guy and Andreas is the bad guy, you know? Now, I'm not saying Andreas is entertaining all the time now, considering post True Colors, so now it's more of like Andreas being like, oh. So, Mr. X in this situation, he's entertaining because he is just having fun with this whole thing. And to me, not only does that make him entertaining, but it also makes him very intimidating. Because if he is having so much fun with this, you know he has done this before. Because he's just, it's not like because that's the thing, it's not like they act like this is the first time they've seen aliens. You know, it's not like Gravity Falls where they said, you know, we've studied the paranormal for years, but we've never seen anything like zombies or anything like that. he is legitimately going into this like, yeah, aliens, I'm ready for it. I am gonna have so much fun for this. And it really, I also love it just, he's funny, but he just does not give a crap about other people outside of like Jenny, which is funny because like I do like this one scene that even that Jenny and Mr. X and Jenny have. It's, you know, they're in the ice cream truck, which is their little like base of operations, and Mr. X gives Jenny like a compliment, and then he looks over and he sees Jenny's blushing. But what's so funny is Jenny, she's blushing, but she is like, her eyes are just like this, and it's just, she's typing away like this, but she's blushing. So I really like that. I like that little bit. And what's also hilarious is that Jenny doesn't talk in this episode, so it really adds a mystery to her character, yet it also gives her a lot of personality with just what she does, you know, like blushing when she's typing like this, or later in the episode where she has these bunch of people and she's scanning them, you know, obviously for things. And then there's even another scene where she's walking with FBI agents behind her, and she's just got this look of like intimidation. It's like, ooh, it's like, I really want to know more about these characters, and we're obviously gonna, because, you know, then you see the opening theme, and it's like, they're there, so it's gonna get really intriguing. And Mr. X, you know, like I said, he doesn't really care about other people except Jenny, like, and I mean by that, by like, perfect example, since they're in an ice cream truck, there's a kid that comes and asks for a popsicle, and then Mr. X, he's got one in his hand, he's like, ah. Sorry about that, I think I heard a dog bark. Yeah, so he's got one in it, okay, so he's got a popsicle in his hand, and he's like, sorry kid, this is the last one. And then what's funny is he goes to slam the window shut, and usually, you know, it's like being a jerk, window shuts just like that, but I love how it doesn't even budge, and he's like, okay, kidding, man. So it's little bits like that that make it funny, because it shows that not he tries to be a jerk, but even then he has this bit of comedic moments, which is again, I like when villains aren't, you know, I mean, think about some of the best villains, you know, some of them have obviously a lot of different layers to them, you know, some of them are big, intimidating, but you get the backstory of why they are like that. You have other villains that are evil, but they're entertaining, you know, they relish in what they do, or they're just so emotional that it's just so entertaining to watch. Or yeah, it's so, for this one, it's just entertaining to watch, because yeah, he has so much fun with what he does. So basically, Mr. X in this situation, his objective is to find the Plantars and find whoever is harboring these aliens, as they said them, and they also, like, you know, because they're worried about, obviously it's aliens, so it's like abduction or something worse, and so their main objective is find the Plantars, and I think they called her string bean in this, you know, that was like their code phrase for Anne. But yeah, so then they get this little bit of a hint, or I don't know what was up with this, like Mr. X like says we need some real food, because obviously eating popsicles in an ice cream truck ain't gonna cut it, so Jenny finds a Thai Go restaurant, and so Mr. X like says, Jenny, you done it again. And I'm like, I mean, a part of me was like thinking like, oh, maybe he likes Thai, but at the same time, I'm like, wait, is he implying something? I'm like, does he have a suspicion or something? But I mean, he goes to Thai Go, you know, Mrs. Boonchoy's there along with Mr. Boonchoy, and he goes in, you know, he speaks Thai, I like that, you know, he kind of just connecting with Mrs. Boonchoy, and then he's like, I'll have, you know, he makes his order, but then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, have you seen some mysterious looking aliens like this? You know, he whips out the photo of the Plantars that were in the car during the Exterminator episode. And Mrs. Boonchoy, even though she is nervous as heck, plays it off. You know, she's like, haven't seen them, haven't seen these weird sheep. I thought that so weird. I'm like, sheep? What the frick? I mean, no, yeah, you can't really call her sheep. So Mr. X is like, okay. And I love Mrs. Boonchoy. He's like, why are you asking? And he's like, oh, you know, I'm just being your friendly neighborhood federal government. Oh, that's a great. That is. I mean, it's weird that it was used like that, but honestly, it was pretty funny in my opinion. But Mr. X, luckily, at least for the Mrs. or Mrs. Boonchoy, doesn't give him too much worry as Jenny finds or locates Anne and the Plantars' location because Anne thinks that they're safe from Andreas. And for the meantime, she takes the Plantars to the movie theaters to see a movie, and so as they're going to the movie theaters, they're spotted. So Jenny and Mr. X have to go to the movie theater, and I love Mr. X being like, Jenny, is your taser charged? Then he pulls out this taser that looks like, oh my god, and it's so freaky. So basically, Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy, they chase after the Mr. X and Jenny in their minivan, you know, because they gotta warn Anne or they gotta help Anne in any way they can. Even though Anne's like, no, I don't want you guys getting involved in this. I can do this, we can do this because we have dealt with worse. And I'm like, yeah, you dealt with worse in Amphibia. You dealt worse with Amphibia-related stuff. You are a 13-year-old girl with three frogs in LA, and you're dealing with the government. You're gonna need some help. I understand Anne being a little bit stubborn with that because, yeah, she doesn't want a lot of people in the way to possibly get hurt. You know, she wants to take the responsibility of getting everyone home, and plus, you know, their main objective is get back to Amphibia, save Marcy, Sasha, and stop Andreas and all that. But obviously, at this point, it's not an easy thing to do alone, so you gotta be able to be open to help. So Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy, I love this little mini chase that happens on the highway. It's not really a chase, you know, because the Boonchoys are really just following the ice cream truck. And I love this little jab that Mrs. Boonchoy has on Mr. Boonchoy. And I feel so bad for Mr. Boonchoy. The guy can't catch a break. This episode, he's trying to do a pull-up and it's one of those like gorilla gym things that you hang on the door, and he like tries to do a pull-up, and not only does he not do a pull-up, it breaks and he falls and he hurts his back. Gotta feel bad for the man. But you know, they're on the highway, and Mr. Boonchoy is seemingly gonna lose him, but then Mrs. Boonchoy screams, "That's because you drive like an old man." Oh my god. Honestly, it's just funny like that. It was just a funny line. And all this is happening while Anne and the Plantars are at the movie theaters, and I love this little joke that Hop Pop's like, what is this, a church? And Anne's like, yeah, you can argue. It's a nice little funny jab. And then the movie that they see, I find it funny that there's a bunch of trailers, and Hot Pop's like, 20 minutes of trailers, and you people call yourself civilized. And I also love Sprig, who, because it's like one of those, I think it's one of those like surround sound movie theaters, and so Sprig is just deaf pretty much by the end of it, and Polly obviously is having a ball with everything. And even Anne's like, I like the character. She was nice and could expand. And I'm like, a nice little jab at herself, I imagine. But, of course, the whole thing is interrupted when Mr. X shows up. And luckily for Anne, she gets a text from her mom saying that federal government, watch out for the ice cream truck and this dude, and Mr. X is there. And I really love the way Mr. X goes about it in this situation, you know, because he sees them, And I love the first interaction between him and the Plantars and Anne is like, the Plantars and Anne, they're hiding in one of the theaters. They're sitting by the seats, they're huddled up, and you're like, there's a federal government here, we got it. And then Mr. X just sits down next to them, he's got a drink in his hands, takes a sip, and he's like, so, you folks from around here? Or are you just visiting? And it's the right amount of creepiness and just having fun with it. And that's the thing, the Plantars and Anne start running, and he's like, I love a chase. Like the thing he does with his hand is like, oh, that's so creepy too. And this is kind of where it's like the only similarity between this Mr. X and the Mr. X from Resident Evil is the fact that they are stalking the main character through a building, and for this one it is very entertaining and, like I said, very creepy because one thing is Mr. X has one of those. Do you guys remember you guys remember the shoes that had the wheels on them? That was the thing for a time. Mr. X has them, and honestly, I don't know how to feel about it. Because it's like, on one hand, it's pretty cool to see that again, after so long, but at the same time, like, why would you have that? But basically, Mr. X is stalking the Plantars and Anne throughout the movie theaters while Jenny is guarding the door, scanning everyone so they can't seemingly escape. So Anne, Mr. and Mrs. Boonjoy, calls them up and says, we can help you, we can help you. Okay, hang on, wait, we're gonna put you on speaker, wait, oh crap, I accidentally called my mom. So obviously Anne doesn't want her parents to get involved, saying that they got it, but obviously Mr. X is a federal agent, so there's gonna be a little bit of issue. But I do like it when they are seemingly cornered in one of the, I want to say it was a closet or a storage room. And then Plantars are forced to fight back because Mr. X grabs Hop Pop, and Hop Pop loses his disguise, and Mr. X sees what he really is. And he's like, ew, what are you? And why are you slimy? And then Hop Pop's just like, I love Hop Pop because Mr. X has his foot. Hop Pop's on the ground, and yet Hop Pop just looks at him, folded arms, and he's like, rude. It's so funny, but the Plantars fight Mr. X off, they escape. Mr. X then, he's just happy that not only does it seem to be aliens, but they're like these frog-like aliens, and he's so happy, he's on the comm with Jenny, and he's like, bring in the troops, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And so Mr. and Mrs. Boonjoy, all the while, they construct their little plan of how to get Anne and the Plantars out, and luckily for them, it all works because Anne and the Plantars hide in the bathroom. Mr. X with the agents, or with the troops, they come into the bathroom, they are surrounding the stall that Anne and the Plantars are in, and clearly has no idea how many people are there because it's like, it's 4-on-1, we got this. Just go for the eyes. Nope. So luckily for Anne and the Plantars, Mr. and Mrs. Boonjoy, they had the whole plan figured out, and that was cut the power, enter through the ventilation system, snatch the family, drop in 2 frogs and a tadpole from the pet store, which was really funny, get out, and yeah, and then, they did the nice switcheroo and it worked, but I liked Mr. X being like, looks like I underestimated them. Well, I'll make sure I get the last laugh because all the FBI troops that are there, they're laughing because it's like, I've heard of little green men, but that's just, because it's like, oh, alien frogs, ooh, there they are. So, yeah, it's, I did find it funny that Mr. X is completely ignoring them and is more focused on the task at hand, and so it really gets me interested to see where are they going to go with this, because Anne and the Plantars, it's like, now they know the government's after them. It's like, you had a killer robot, now you got the government. Which is worse? I mean, because you can destroy the robot. You can't really destroy the government. So yeah, it's pretty funny, and I really enjoyed it. And then also, obviously, the parents, because Anne and kind of admits he misjudged them and I think we've all, at a point in time, misjudged our parents for something because it's like, oh, well, they're our parents, they're just there to they take care of us, they do parent things, they do all that. It's like, what can they really do? And it's like, you never know. It is a pretty interesting episode, and I really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the weird ending with our Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy explaining the plan, although there was a weird moment. So they talked about how they were going to go to the pet store, and they do. Then they come back, and then the troops show up. And then they execute their plan of heading in and getting the family out. But then they explain how the whole thing went down. And they said it started with Mrs. Boonchoy keeping the troops busy on the highway. And I'm like, a little confused. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I was like, wait, what? Because they didn't call in the troops until like later. So I'm like, wait, where does this fit in? And I'm like, okay. Yeah, that was the weird bit. But then I love how it all ends with like Anne like, wait, how'd you know we were in the bathroom? And then Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy is like, we might have strapped a tracking device to Hop Pop. And I love Hop Pop just opening up his vest and he just sees the tracking device. And it's not even like a small tracking device. It's like this big little thing on his chest. And he's like, oh, I was wondering what that was. And then Polly rips it off and of course he screams. And it ends there. And I love that. I love it. So, nice, fun episode. Mr. X, my most entertaining villain of the show so far. Really excited to see what they're going to do with him. And just what this part of the season is going to be, because obviously you had your enemies of Amphibia, but you also still have things going on on Earth. But we still got to get back to Amphibia somehow, because the only thing we have in Amphibia so far was the Sasha's storyline. So what's gonna happen? Where are we gonna go from here? We shall see. So yeah, we shall see. So all right, yeah, that's all I got for this one. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. And if you want to subscribe, subscribe. You don't have to. I am just saying. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.